Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I was pulling my car out of the garage and my garage door fell off the track. So I had to get it straightened out so I could close it and secure the house before I left. So anyway, I apologize. Thank you all for being here tonight to learn all about the ballot issues that we'll all be voting on this November, along with re-electing our president, right? So, and all our other good Democratic candidates down ballot. So I'm here to talk to you about Amendment 65.
There's somebody coming behind you, and if you don't want to be knocked off your
Scoot a little closer.
So maybe over here.
Come over this way.
The other side.
Oh, the other side's safe. All right.
Or you can come over here.
All right. So who's heard of Amendment 65? Anybody? Maybe about half the group. Okay. So for both those of you that have heard of it, and especially for those that haven't, how many of you got your blue book? Everybody got their blue book in the mail? And everybody got their also their sample ballot, right? No, have got your sample ballot? Still haven't got it. All right. Well, you should be getting one.
I've definitely registered.
Have you updated your registration?
I checked it online.
You checked it online. Okay, as long as you checked it online, I think that it counts because.
I'm just getting nervous about the mail-in ballot.
Yeah, we're getting. If you haven't updated your ballot, you may not. You need to do that to make sure you get your mail-in ballot. So Amendment 65. So let me. Of course, it's described both on the sample ballot, but even more so in the blue book because it has the analysis along with the pros and cons and the actual wording. And before I read you I'll read you the actual amendment, but let me just talk to you about it for a few minutes first here. So this is all about standing up to get big money out of our politics. There's one way to do that is to do what some of us have been pushing in Colorado. That's to get our legislators to voluntarily reject all PAC and special interest money, like Senator Irene Aguilar has done, and 6 other of her colleagues out of the 100 members in our state legislature have done the same thing. So yeah, let's give her a hand. I mean, the reason she deserves a big hand is because it truly is a courageous thing to do, because she may not tell you this, but I'll tell you this. Some of her colleagues, some of those other 93 legislators that have not taken a similar pledge, continue to take PAC and special interest money, aren't especially happy that there are 7, including Senator Aguilar, that have chosen voluntarily not to accept that money. And so it continues to be a courageous thing for her to do, because she'll continue to get flack about that from some of the ones that think she's not playing the game, so to speak. And it's a game that ultimately will never win, because it doesn't matter even if even the unions are outspent 7 to 1 in PAC money. So we can never hope to raise as much money through our union friends or through individual contributions to keep up with the big PAC money that tends to favor the big corporations that are now, because of Citizens United, able to give unlimited amounts of money to super PACs and spend unlimited amounts of money, those super PACs. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is well, there's really 2 other ways. One way is to wait for the Supreme Court to change its mind or change its membership, okay, and reverse itself on Citizens United. But we can't put all our eggs in that basket, because who knows if and when that will happen. Well, it will happen eventually, but the makeup may not change. The votes may not change on the court, even if we do get new members. So that's not a very reliable way to get the big money out. The only reliable way is to pass a U.S. constitutional amendment. So that's what Amendment 65 is directed towards, as the first step towards doing that. So if you think about what matters to you, whether it be a candidate you might be supporting, like Senator Aguilar, or other candidates you've supported in the past, state legislative candidates, congressional candidates, when we're successful, either on an issue, passing an issue like Amendment 65 or some other ballot initiative, or we're successful getting our candidate elected, we feel good, right? And how do we do that? Most of us, at least most of us Democrats, we do it through sweat equity, right? I mean, we do it through a lot of hard work. And that's the one main reason that we're often able to be successful in spite of the 7-to-1 advantage in campaign spending that our opponents usually have. So, but there's another way to do it, and one way to do it is if your name's Adelson, you can spend $36 million of your own personal fortune on campaign contributions, and you can accomplish what otherwise could be accomplished through sweat equity. So those people that spend, like the Adelson, spends $36 million, just like us. We expect to get a payoff for our investment, right? We invest our sweat equity, supporting our candidates, supporting our ballot initiatives. They do it through their hard-earned cash. So, but they expect something in return. It's important to know that the people that donate money to campaigns are a tiny, tiny minority of the people in this country. In fact, if you look at the people that give $200 or more, which is not, for many people, it's not a lot of money. Maybe for you or I, it'd be a lot of money to give $200 to a candidate. But if you count the people that give $200 to a candidate or more, it represents 0.28% of the population. 0.28. That's like just a little over 1/4 of 1%. So it's a tiny percentage of people giving just $200 or more. And then what about the big-time donors, like the ones that give tens of thousands of dollars or more? There's 1,082 of those people in the whole country that give $10,000 or more to a candidate or to a political party or to a super PAC. That represents 0.00035%. I think that's 35,000th of a percent give that kind of big money, and there's just a little over 1,000 of them. So there's 1,000 people that are driving a lot of our politics nationwide. Just 1,000 people out of, what's the population? 330 million people in this country, or something like that, right? 330 million people. So it's a tiny percentage are calling all the shots. So that $36 million from the Adelsons, which the Adelsons are, their main claim to fame is they own some casinos and make their money that way. Well, their net worth is about $25 billion. So that $36 million the Adelsons give is less than 1% of their wealth, less than 1%. So let's say a lot of people decided they were going to at least match the Adelsons as a percentage of their wealth. Give almost 1% of their wealth in a political contribution. It would take 300,000 of us, giving the same share of our wealth, investing it in politics, in candidates, in PACs that are supporting candidates, to equal that $36 million that the Adelsons are giving this election season. So for their $36 million, they're having the voice of 300,000 people. So does that sound fair? It doesn't sound fair to me. It doesn't sound fair to most people. It doesn't seem to square up with the whole concept of one man or one woman and one vote. They're getting a 300,000 to 1 in terms of voting with their dollars. So that's why not only rich individuals like the Adelsons, but also the likes of, if you're talking about the environment, so think about the issues that are important. It's the environment, education, health care, a major interest of Senator Aguilar. In the case of the environment, for example, please come on in.
Norm, why are you going to sit here? Because otherwise it'll be hard to hear.
So on the environment, we've got the likes of Exxon and Halliburton and BP that are spending millions of dollars in campaign contributions. Why? To buy their way out of fines, to game the free market, get special favors, putting legislators in office that are going to be sympathetic to the concerns of big oil, and also to enhance their economic situation by keeping their tax rates down to zero, or in some cases even negative tax rates. In the case of big oil, because of the oil subsidies, they actually have a negative tax rate. They get money back from the public coffers every year. So what about what about just paying their fair share? You got multi-billion corporations like General Electric, Verizon, DuPont, Wells Fargo. They've invested in their lawmakers, of course, also with the idea of getting a political payback. And what about having a healthy economy? So we all saw what has happened since '07 with the crash of our economy. And then we have the Wall Street kingpins like Goldman Sachs and Citibank and Lehman Brothers, all took billions of dollars in taxpayer-funded bailouts with no strings attached. Now, how did they get that money with no strings attached, do you think? So Wall Street, again, this election season is one of the biggest players particularly in the presidential election. And most of that money is probably not behind President Obama, but behind his opponent. So, but there's even a bigger problem, because it's not just spending money to support candidates. Another thing that's done, and another reason why it's very courageous for Senator Aguilar and others to reject voluntarily, make a decision to reject PAC and special interest money, is money can be spent, or even just be threatened to be spent, to keep people from even running for office, or to let them know that if they're not, if they don't take the positions that will benefit these big money spenders, they will spend money against them or for their opponent, or they won't give them the money if they're one of those other 93 legislators in Colorado or the other federal legislators that might be taking the PAC money. So it's a very, if it doesn't cause people to become corrupt, meaning they don't follow their conscience, they follow their campaign contributors. Okay, it certainly creates the appearance of corruption, which is not good for our democracy. It damages public trust and confidence in their government and in our institutions in general. Anyway, so that's why we're working on Amendment 65. So let me just read it to you real quick, and then in plain English, I'll explain what it says. So besides replacing two words with one other word in the Constitution, so the Constitution already has some wording in it about campaign contributions, and the words that are in there now say, the people of Colorado want to encourage voluntary campaign spending limits. So one change 65 makes is to strike the words encouraging voluntary and replacing that with establishing campaign spending limits. So it's taking a little stronger. It's changing the existing wording in the Constitution to make it a little stronger. Yet most of what it's doing is statutory, which means it's not in the Constitution, but it's changing Colorado state law, Colorado statutes. And this is what would go into the statute when this passes. And this will pass. We're very confident. The polling, everything tells us it's going to pass by probably a landslide, meaning 60% or more. There's the polls say about I think 85% of the people in the state support this concept in theory. So we expect it to pass, but it's important that it pass by a big margin, because the bigger margin, the stronger message it will send to our legislators that this is the kind of politics we want. We want politics of the people, not of the big special, wealthy special interest. So here's the wording. The voters instruct, doesn't require, but instructs the Colorado congressional delegation, those are our two U.S. senators and our 7 U.S. representatives. Okay, so it instructs them to propose and support, and it also instructs the Colorado legislature, the 100 members of our state legislature, to ratify, because to have a constitutional amendment, you have to have Congress pass it first, and then it has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states, so that's 38 states. So we're saying, so when it comes, after our congressional delegation proposes it, passes it at the federal level in Congress, comes to the states, it asks Senator Aguilar and her colleagues to ratify it. To ratify what? An amendment to the U.S. Constitution that allows Congress, doesn't require Congress, but allows Congress and the states, like Colorado, to limit campaign contributions and spending. So again, it doesn't require any action in advance other than to propose and support, and then to ratify something that will at least allow us in Colorado and all the other 49 states, and allow the Congress on a federal national basis to pass some sort of limits to be determined by them through the democratic process, to ensure citizens, regardless of wealth, can express their views to one another and to their government on a level playing field. So instead of one person being able to spend the same amount of money, it would take 300,000 of us if we were to contribute a similar percentage of our assets, of our wealth, would make it 1 for 1. So every voice is equal in terms of the size of the megaphone they get to use to exercise their rights of free speech. So, in a nutshell, that's what it was. You can boil this down and say it's a very strong resolution on behalf of the people of Colorado to say we want reasonable limits on campaign spending and campaign contributions. So, with that, does anybody have any questions at all? Yes.
I'm afraid I probably will not vote for this amendment because I totally agree with your statement of the problem. But I think the language is mealy-mouthed and doesn't really do anything, and the Colorado move to amend language is much stronger. It says corporations are not people and money is not speech. And that would put us on a much stronger foundation to get some actual progress in the future.
So, and I agree with this woman said here about it, and there's a reason why we went with limited it to addressing the free speech rights of corporations and not got into the whole, which is a much bigger issue, is are corporations people? I think we'd all agree in this room anyway that corporations are not people. But the polling shows that the language that's in N65 as it is, without adding the additional angle of corporations are not people, the polling was a lot stronger on this. We had a much better chance of getting the signatures required to get on the ballot and a much better chance of passing it. So it was a very conscious decision to go with this particular language. We polled actual voters with both options, okay? The one that I would prefer to, as well as this one, and this one polled much higher. So it was a conscious strategic decision to go with this language. So. And Move to Mend, to my understanding, has signed on to this. While they said it's not adequate, it's not enough, we'd all like to see more, they said it's a good first step. So the Colorado Move to Amend organization and the National Move to Amend organization is behind and has endorsed Amendment 65. But yet I would agree with you. But I hope we would all agree something is better than nothing. If this weren't to pass, then we have nothing. Then we have the status quo. We've not sent any message at all to our congressional delegation or to our state legislature. And I think it's critically important we send a strong message. Like I said, I have no doubt it's going to pass. It's going to get more than a majority. What's important and the reason we should all support it and tell our neighbors and friends about it and our family and explain it to them if necessary. Also explain, as I did, why it's not stronger than maybe it could have been. We want this to pass by the widest possible margin so it will have this biggest impact on our legislators. Yes?
Is there an opposing speaker, Senator?
No, Dan, does you want to come out?
I will.
Okay. And before you do, can I just ask, is there anybody else that has any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
As I understand this, this is just a request to ask not our state legislators.
Oh, no, it does ask our state legislators.
They ratify,
Right.
but who it addresses is our congressional delegation.
Addresses both.
Does it address both?
Absolutely addresses both.
I don't believe that districts, our congressional districts, are like-minded in regard to this kind of legislation, encouraging the Congress particularly to act a certain way. And I do have to say that money, yes, it can be a problem, but it is free speech. And in Colorado, by far most of the money has been spent to support candidates and issues by four good Democrats. Have you heard the name? Pat Stryker, Tim Gill, Jared Polis, and Brent Bridges? That's where most of the money has come in Colorado. Also, these big financial institutions in 2008, most of their money went by far to President Barack Obama. ExxonMobil, I just want to put a few countervailing facts on the table. ExxonMobil, yes, they have some tax rewards, but not nearly as many as the solar energy. They have paid more taxes, I do believe, than any other corporation. And I would check that fact. The other facts, I am absolute. So I do think that both sides of this legislation need to be directed. Thank you.
Thank you.